Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to proceed with the second part of the first chapter, the last lesson. Before we proceed, let's summarize what we learned in the last video. We saw that a small boy, Franz, he was going to school and he was quite late. But when he was about to reach school, he saw that the environment of the school is quite different from what he saw before. The school was appearing very quiet and silent, like the Sunday morning. And he went inside. His teacher was dressed in a beautiful coat which he wore only on special days. And then the teacher made a sad announcement that this was going to be his last French lesson because an order had come from Berlin that only German will be taught in their districts, which were called Alsace and Lorraine. Children, please have a look at the vocabulary. The words of Mosier Hamel or M. Hamel were like thunderclap to the little boy. The little boy Franz was very shocked to hear that this was going to be his last French lesson. Now he realized that this was the notice that had been put up on the notice board. And he was really very sad because this was going to be his last French lesson. He was filled with regret that he had wasted a lot of time. He had wasted his time when he went for hunting for bird's egg or he went for sliding near the river Saar. In our life, we often take things for granted. It is only when we are severed from those things that we realize the importance of it. In this time when we are locked up in our homes, then perhaps we all are really missing when we meet each other and the happiness which we feel. So, in the same way, the protagonist of the story, Franz, was also very sad that the books, which always appeared to be a nuisance for him, so heavy to carry, suddenly they have become his old and dear friends. And the feeling that his teacher would be away from him, this also made him very sad. This made him forget how the teacher was. But he was really sad that he is going to miss all these. Franz, the little boy, felt sad for his teacher and also understood why his teacher M. Hamel was wearing his fine Sunday clothes or special clothes because it was going to be their last lesson. He also understood that the villagers were all seated in the back of the classroom because they wanted to thank Mosier Hamel for his 40 years of service. And they were filled with regret because they had not gone to school more and they had not paid much attention to their own mother tongue. As the little boy Franz was thinking about all this, now came his turn to recite his lesson that he was supposed to learn on participles. And somehow because he was filled with patriotism, because now he was filled with love for his own language, he wanted to somehow recite the whole chapter without making any mistakes. He wanted to just give his best. But alas, he could not. He got mixed up with the first words and now he bent his head with shame because he was not able to do even a small thing for his own mother tongue. The teacher M. Hamel was very kind to Franz. He did not scold him. Instead, he told him the fact that this is what we always do. We always put off till tomorrow our important works. And now that tomorrow is snatched away from them, they do not have time, the time has gone. And now They all feel bad because there is a trouble with their districts Alsace and Lorraine, and there will be no teaching of French language. He also tells him that now the German people will make fun of them, will mock at them. That how is it that you call yourself as French when you don't know your own mother tongue? The teacher M. Hamel assures the little boy Franz that he only is not responsible for the lack of knowledge they have in their own mother tongue. He tells that we all are responsible for this and we all need to be blamed. Your parents, they were not anxious, they did not send you school regularly, and they preferred that you work in mills so that you can earn a bit more money. And he himself also takes the responsibility that whenever I wanted, I gave you a holiday. Whenever I wanted, I told you to water my flowers. So, this is all we all have shown a lot of negligence on our part, and we all need to be blamed. M. Hamel seemed to be intent on making his class a memorable one, especially as he stressed the importance of guarding the French language and keeping it alive. The patience and meticulousness with which he conducted the last lesson seemed to suggest to Franz that the teacher was determined to leave an indelible imprint on their minds in this last lesson to make up for all the lost time. Here, the teacher emphasizes that when the people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to the prison. Here, this line means that when people are made into slaves, then if they remember their language, then language acts as a uniting factor which helps all the people to unite, to form a common group or link, and then they could surely win their freedom. After the lesson of grammar, M. Hamel took a lesson in writing, and for that special day, for the last lesson that he was going to teach, he had brought with him small notebooks on which he had written in his own handwriting, beautiful handwriting, he had written the name of his districts, Alsace and Lorraine. And those small notebooks floated like small flags all over the classroom. And that day, all the villagers, all the little children, everyone wanted to do their work with a lot of sincerity. Even the small kids who were busy drawing something, drawing their fishing hooks, they also understood the emotion, they also understood the importance of their mother tongue, and they did their small work with a lot of seriousness. That day there was silence in the classroom, and the only sound which could be heard by Franz was the cooing of pigeons, and that too was very low. Franz wondered in his heart that the Germans can change everything. They can make us speak in German. They can snatch the language from us. But will they be able to change the ways of nature? His emotion is expressed over here in these lines. Will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? His anguish is shown that the power of the Germans is meaningless because they can't change the nature. They can enforce only their superiority on the weaker sections of the society, on the people on whom they are dominating, but they can't change the nature. So these lines show the anguish of the little boy Franz. Whenever Franz looked up, he saw his teacher sitting motionless. He was looking at all the things present in the classroom as if he wanted to etch all these things in his mind. He had been there for 40 long years, And everything was just the same. Only the small garden and the plants, perhaps they had grew a bit taller, but everything rest was same. So after 40 long years, hearing his sister pack perhaps in the room just above the classroom, his heart was evidently broken. In spite of the emotional moment, M. Hamel had the courage to listen through each and every lesson. After the lesson in history, the babies, the little kids who were sitting in the classroom, they chanted the alphabets, ba, bi, boo, and at the back of the classroom, the old Hauser, he became quite emotional and he also started chanting the alphabets with them. And the way his voice trembled made the entire emotional class laugh and cry at the same time. Here Franz remembers that oh, how well he remembers his last French lesson. When the church clock struck 12 and the voice of the trumpets of the Persian soldiers who were returning from the drill was heard, M. Hamel stood up, and he could not go on with his speech. His voice was choked. All he could do was write on the board as large as he could, Viva la France, that means long live France. He fell back against a wall and he was dejected. He gestured his students with his hands to leave. This church clock striking 12 and the Persian soldiers returning from Dil. This marked the end of the freedom of the French people. And it also showed that now all their wishes would be under their captivators, that is, the Germans. Thank you, children. I hope you understood the chapter. For your ease, I am presenting the summary of the entire first and second part. I hope it would help you with all your assignment work. Thank you.